She said, the truth of it is, when it comes to the heart, anything can happen at any time. I'm like, well, that's reassuring, right?
I was always more a proponent of just eating a balanced diet and getting most of your supplementation. But
your life will be the same today as it is tomorrow, except...
Welcome to Affinity Peak Performance, empowering you to peak in health and energy to fully express what you were created to be.
Welcome back to Affinity Peak Performance. I'm Dr. Todd Smith, and I have been graced with the presence of Frank Matassa today. A little bit about Frank. He's got a big bodybuilding and nutritional knowledge base, many years of that. He was born on Long Island, New York, and son of Italian blue-collar parents, and his grandfather competed in the strongman contest at Coney Island, which is pretty cool, and in New York in the 20s. And so that's where he believes he inherited his strength, probably true. That's pretty cool to be part of.
probably.
And his mom was born in 22 in New York City. Her aunt was a chiropractor. So what's really cool about Frank, beyond all those things, is that he received regular adjustments from the time he was 8 years old until the time that she passed at 96. So he grew up with chiropractic as the first line of healthcare and a huge knowledge base on nutrition, and he knows more about nutrition than most nutritionists know. I can vouch for that. But he learned early on the importance of chiropractic and fitness and the holistic approach, not only to his training and performance, but his health in general. So I'll let Frank get into some of his background on his bodybuilding and have him share with us some of his story that I think is pretty awesome on some of the things as I've gotten to know Frank over the years and appreciate not just his knowledge base, but who he is as a person too. He's a lot of fun. So here's Frank Matassa.
Excuse me. So I was a 130 pound kid, played sports, but I was little. So after high school, I didn't want to be little anymore. So I decided, to start weight training and, all of that stuff. I started, I guess, after about 6 months, I gained about 20 pounds with absolutely no knowledge whatsoever about nutrition or training or anything. I just went to the gym and said, I want to be like those guys. Eventually, in my later 20s, I started training with some professional bodybuilders, from the New York area. And I've been doing that ever since. I guess I became an expert in holistic nutrition because of my bodybuilding and fitness enthusiasm, I guess you could say, because I never really competed. There was no way I was wearing a thong on stage.
Yeah. Now, did you meet those guys just at the local gym or how?
I just met them at the local gym. That's it. I just met them at the local gym and we started, speaking, shooting the shit, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, they were filled with all kinds of knowledge. So I just would listen. And that's how I really got into it. And I guess it's been 40 plus years. That's 43 years I've been training.
Yeah.
So my first casualty was I ruptured my tricep tendon, and that was last year. That's the first time I've ever been injured training. I ruptured it. It was complete rupture.
That was a shock to me to learn that you did that.
Right.
Yeah.
On my right arm too.
Yeah.
So that was,
the scary thing was I asked you, did you have any warning that was coming up? You're like, nope.
No warning whatsoever.
Alrighty.
A few sets in and all of a sudden it just popped.
Yeah.
And, it felt like I didn't know what happened. I just heard it. I kind of heard it. And I thought, there's a bone sticking out of my arm. I remember turning to my daughter and saying, is there a bone sticking out of my arm? She goes, no, you're good. I said, well, then I tore my tricep. And then at that point I knew it was torn. And that was, kind of depressing.
Yeah.
It was depressing because I couldn't do anything for, weeks. I wore a brace and I still went to the gym. I went to the gym a week after surgery. I went and trained, one side, which is, called cross education.
Yeah.
So I trained the legs from whatever I could, anything that I couldn't grab onto. But I trained one side and That was it. I just tried to stay in shape while I was going through it. It was about a year ago.
But it's still depressing because it wasn't the same.
It wasn't
Usual demand.
It wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so used to training. Like I trained with Mike Menser back in the late 90s. And he was a professional bodybuilder that competed with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
So I trained with him, and he had this heavy duty method of training, which was, you know, kind of like balls to the wall, real heavy. And I always trained heavy because I thought that was the only way that I could grow. And that's where I got my most gains was doing that.
Just shocking the system.
Shocking the system, heavy, you know, heavy duty.
Yeah.
You know, that was the only way I had the best gains, you know, short intensity, you know, high intensity, short duration.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, you know, these 3-hour workouts.
And I don't think I saw you those years, but I've seen you jacked. And I remember golfing with you at one point, and the beer car girl was like, "You do something. I don't know what you do, but you do something." You know, like, yeah, he does something.
In my 50s, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
I stayed kind of fit in my 50s. I mean, I don't feel fit now because I had a recent setback again. If you want to speak, I'm going to speak about that.
That's an interesting story.
Right.
And very current. Yeah.
Right. So I guess it was a month. It's been a month. I had open heart surgery to replace my aorta. I mean,
that's a big deal.
You want to see? I can prove it. There it is.
I mean, especially if someone is not familiar with, like, if you've ever seen an open heart procedure, that is a hugely invasive. That's a massive process to go through.
Right.
Not just in the fix and repair mode, but even the after effects is
right.
There's a lot far reaching with that. So
when I found out about it, my first thought was, how did this happen? I've been taking care of myself my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, I eat healthy. I eat clean. I take supplements. My whole life. I don't drink. Occasionally drink, but nothing to speak of. I don't smoke.
Yeah.
So how did it happen? So I guess it was just a damaged valve. I don't know how it got damaged. Maybe there was an infection. You and I had this conversation.
Yeah.
You said maybe it was an infection of some sort.
Yeah, because the rest of the heart was healthy. Just that valve was destroyed. That's odd.
Right. So that valve was destroyed, and my heart was, you know, the size of a cantaloupe because of all the blood that was regurgitating back into my left ventricle.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the issue. You know, do you want me to speak about how I found out about it?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty amazing story.
Right.
Honestly, you're here. It's pretty.
I'm here. So I really found out about it through a psychic. You remember I told you that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. This is where it gets.
Yeah. So my father-in-law had passed away about a year ago. And then August last year, my wife had taken her mom to see a psychic, just for laughs or whatever it was. When they were with the psychic said to my wife that your father is here and he wants to talk to you. And she said, okay, I'm here. What does he want to say? Yeah. He said, your husband has a problem with his heart and he needs to have it checked out.
Very specific.
Very specific. He has a problem with his heart and he needs to have it checked out. So if he doesn't have it checked out, he's going to be coming to see me very shortly. Yeah. So me being the skeptic, I completely dismissed it. This is in August of 22. This is in August last year. Come December, I have like a sinus infection and I go to an urgent care, which I never do. I don't do doctors. It's my thing. So I go to an urgent care and the doctor says, you have a wicked heart murmur. You need to go see a cardiologist. So she makes an appointment for me at Vanderbilt. And at the time, it was the holidays, so it was really hard to get an appointment. So I didn't get an appointment until February. Come February, I went, had a cardiac MRI, had an echocardiogram.
So even think of that delay.
Right, think about that delay. Yeah. The doctor says, after I get all the tests, the doctor says, well, you have severe aortic valve regurgitation. And you, at some point, are going to need open heart surgery.
At some point.
At some point. So at that point, all I heard was open heart surgery. And I really didn't hear anything else he said after that, because I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
But he basically said that I could wait 6 months and reevaluate it. And then every year after that, just to see if it's progressed anymore. So at that point, something didn't really sit right with me. I said, if I have severe aortic valve regurgitation, like my wife said, so you have severe, what's next? Catastrophic? Catastrophic is next. What are we waiting for? So I said, you're right. I think I need a second opinion.
Yeah.
I think I need a second opinion. So I had this plan to go see my friend in Dallas for a week. And while I was there, he said, why don't you go see a doctor friend of mine who happens to be one of the best cardiac thoracic surgeons in the country. Went to see him. He did his own echocardiogram while I was there. After the echocardiogram, I met him in the office with the other surgeon, which is his partner. And they basically said, you're in heart failure right now, and you're going to the emergency room. And the rest, I guess, is history.
Yeah.
Rest is
very
history.
different information than you had prior.
Right. Very different information.
Yeah.
You're in heart failure. I'm not letting you leave. You're going to the emergency room. We're going to do surgery on Monday.
Yeah.
And that was a Thursday. Friday, they did the angioplasty procedure to see if my coronary arteries or anything blockages in them. And I didn't. I didn't think I did because I've always eaten clean. I just had a bad valve. And I don't know, like I said earlier, I don't know how I had that bad valve. I don't know how it happened.
It's still a little bit of a mystery.
It's still a mystery how it happened. But, you've seen photos. I showed you photos of it. It was absolutely unrecognizable.
I don't even do heart repair, but it's
unrecognizable.
It's very apparent that needs to replace stats.
Exactly.
Not in a few weeks or so or a month.
Exactly. It was 6 months.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, if I didn't go for a second opinion, I waited the 6 months, my heart might have popped.
Yeah.
It can only, your ventricle can only expand so much before it fails.
Right.
And if it pops, it's over. It's over. You're dead. There's no time to repair it. You just bleed out.
Yeah.
So going for the second opinion was really
important.
It was really important.
I was sharing with you earlier, like the current understanding, because the speed of information is happening so fast nowadays, especially.
Right.
That even with proper training, the training is sometimes obsolete within a year or two, so even if you go for a good opinion, if it's something that is a major category that can affect living, it's important to have a second, sometimes third opinion before you decide to do anything major. And that's what we give counsel to in the clinics as well. It's like when it's a major category, get at least a second opinion, sometimes third opinion, before making a major decision, because it can be radically different in the information that you get as a client or a patient, but it will equip you and empower you to make your best decision with regard to something that's obviously quite invasive and important. So I'm glad you're here.
Glad it worked out.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm here. It could have went another way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really didn't have a choice. I mean, I went when I saw the doctor in Dallas. I didn't have a choice. It's okay. You're having surgery, and that's the end of it. And I was so happy that that's the facility I was at when that decision was made, because they were
top notch. Yeah.
The best.
Well, that's where you belong. That's where you belong.
Well, here I am. So I guess I don't look like I had open heart surgery, but it's there.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit now because I can't go to the gym.
Did you tell me you just got over this?
Yes, that was a year. Now I got to get over it. Give me a break. Nothing's happened in 40 plus years, and now all of a sudden this is what I'm up for.
Well, that's what I was sharing with you earlier. It's like I'm 50 now, but when I crossed 41, I remember specifically I was sitting on a bed pulling little notes in my pocket, and for the first time caught myself doing this crap. Going, oh, no, really? And then at 42, I was in a noisy restaurant having to lean in just to hear the conversation.
Exactly.
Really? That's the next part.
Old age sucks.
Cool. But
I think that's why we go to the gym to kind of try and slow that aging process as much as we can.
Yeah.
We just don't want to accept that it's happening.
Yeah. And some of the cool advancements currently in the sciences are coming along to help very specifically and naturally slow down some of those processes, which is only because of the speed of AI and those computing powers that we're able to do these sequences to, it was scientists and doctors that had these concepts, but now these things are catching up where they can speed through the results and the answers faster to get to the actual modifications. So that's an exciting time we're living in that way.
Right.
I think a lot of these things from a natural standpoint can be modified to our advantage.
Agreed.
But not completely reversed. I mean, there's still a natural order of things. So.
Yeah, I believe you really just have to take care of yourself. Give it the best shot.
Yeah. And you've done that all the way through.
I've done that
nutritionally and
practices.
Your personal practices are excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Wasn't, know what damaged the body. It's just speculation at this point.
I was talking to an ER doc. She was very poignant and was talking about heart issues. It's like, how can someone that does regular hard exercise, triathlons, eats right, eats clean, but still can have a heart condition? She said the truth of it is, when it comes to the heart, anything can happen at any time. I'm like, well, that's reassuring, right? That sounds good. Love to hear that.
Well, I agree with that now.
Yeah.
Now that I've gone through it. But
she said that's what they see. I'm like, that's fantastic. So, but it doesn't mean we don't still give best efforts out, because it does make a difference over time for sure.
Well, I believe being in shape going into the surgery really helped.
Absolutely.
Helped me get at it. I mean, the first 4 days were hell.
Yeah.
But.
And your recovery will be better.
Recovery's
something
better.
else.
Yeah, recovery's better. When I left the hospital after surgery, when they let me go and they discharged me, I wouldn't let them give me a wheelchair. I just walked out.
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
It just walked out. I'm not using a wheelchair. Sorry.
Yeah. I heard at least that much.
Exactly. Oh, man. Yeah. Craziness. I got through it.
That's cool.
Here we are.
That's cool. So with your, going back to some of your bodybuilding adventures and trainings all those years, and some of the people that and you're involved with, was it Mr. Olympia that organization?
Well, it was the IFBB,
okay.
International Federation of Bodybuilding.
Okay.
So the pro bodybuilders that I knew back then, bodybuilding was different in the 80s, and it's kind of more mainstream now. It was kind of underground stuff. So, now everybody goes online and they think, they get all this crazy information and everybody's got their own ideas. And, I always thought, and I still believe that, if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger and those guys that trained back then in the 70s, just look at the equipment they trained. They trained with barbells and dumbbells.
Yeah.
And they looked phenomenal for whatever they had.
Yeah.
And, the nutrition back then isn't as advanced as it is now with
Sure.
supplements or any of that stuff. And they still looked great. They still looked phenomenal. So it's really hard work. There's no real shortcuts.
Yeah.
There's no
were you competing back then?
I never competed.
You never competed?
I never competed. There's no way, I said earlier,
Just
there's no way I was wearing a thong on stage.
Well, now they have the, where they wear the board shorts.
To wear the board shorts, the physique, and there's no legs.
So there's still time. You can jump back in.
But there's no legs in that contest.
Oh,
they don't, they absolutely don't judge legs because they have the board shorts. So you don't have to have any, and, an indicator that they don't judge legs is there's a couple of amputees that compete in that.
Oh, okay.
So they have these blades that they're wearing, and they still finish in the, top 3, whatever.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Doing everything they can.
Don't skip leg day.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's funny about the shorts. Yeah.
But I never competed. I don't think I really had the desire to compete. I just really like being in shape. I just like, and I like the camaraderie of all
Were you doing sports around the same time too? Did it translate into your sports?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I played hockey, played ice hockey, till I was 17, 18. And it's around the time I started training bodybuilding, right around that time. So it translated into it. But I was never good enough in any sport to be a professional athlete. So I guess in my head, I always wanted to be a professional athlete. I think everybody does.
Sure.
So
if you're engaged in sports.
Right. So going to the gym and working out and being in shape made me feel as if I was a professional athlete. And that's how I trained.
And you're giving your best efforts out.
Right. Right. And that was the whole feeling behind it. I mean,
sense.
You would know, there'd be days where you could go into the gym and on your way there, you could be in a horrible mood. Something happened. Somebody was on the phone with you or whatever. And by the time you get through it and get through the workout, you forgot all about it.
Sure.
It just clears your head. So it's
sure.
It's more, it's not just physical. It's a big mental.
Yeah. The neurotransmitters that
Right.
you produce are so good and healthy.
Right.
And proper and recalibrate and rebalance. And it's on, like you said, many levels, even spiritually too, just to put the effort out. And sometimes, as you know, in a deep workout, you'll get into a deep spiritual pondering and you'll have neat epiphanies that happen, especially if you're doing the cardio and you're oxygenating well.
Absolutely.
But it's cool to see that concept being brought into what's been going on as a trend corporately to bring in these desks that are high-low and the extra bicycle that's connected to it so that when people are working and thinking, they're oxygenating at a higher rate, their heart's pumping at a better rate.
Right.
And we're not staying we're not designed to be stationary.
No,
we're designed to
absolutely
move day in, day out. And so to be stationary as a society and have this technology, and we're watching the postures change and all these things that are counter to healthy neurology, I mean, that's huge. So anytime I can shed light on and bring someone like you on that has such a vast background and knowledge on these things as well with exercise, body development, nutrition, and have them see another aspect of that. But to realize if we take that home into the workplace or take that into the home and incorporate more of these activity-based things while we're doing what we have to do anyways, I think that's a huge win for each family, each community, and eventually for the country to raise the bar back because we're measuring so low in the health ratings. And it's ridiculous in this country that we are.
Agreed.
So I think it's one more great category that if we can bring the awareness back to it and implement, even if a little bit, family at a time, house by house, I think that's a win. So
you just have to move.
Yes.
You got to move.
Yes.
Just don't be stationary.
I think all the longevity studies show that too, that's one commonality of longevity is staying in motion, whether it be work-based and, you have that validation of a job well done because there's good mental neurochemistry that happens with that
Absolutely.
too.
Absolutely.
But the engagement, just staying active, the motion is huge.
Agreed.
And our society's gotten away from it because of modern conveniences.
And the days that you don't really want to go to the gym, those are the days you should really go.
That's right. That's the discipline part.
That's the discipline. Everybody, they would say, well, you go to the gym, you're obsessed. Obsessed is a word that lazy people use to describe the dedicated.
Yeah. Right, for sure. I think that discipline muscle has a pretty decent spectrum to it. I mean, you got maybe like a David Goggins on one end of it.
Yes, he's on the other end of the spectrum. He's out of his mind.
Some serious disciplines out there. But I think anyone that has attained, especially over multiple, like 40 years you've been training.
Over 40 years, yeah.
When you have that much longevity in your training, it's because of best practices and that discipline, that consistency is the key.
Absolute consistency is the key for everything.
Everything.
Be consistent. Be consistent.
I agree.
And just do something. Even if, you don't feel like going, just go do something.
That's right.
And I think I've instilled that in my kids.
That's good.
My daughter, she's been coming since she was 14. Now there'll be nights where I really don't feel like going and she'll make me go. So I guess it worked.
Yeah. We got the dual benefit of spending time with daddy daughter time.
Exactly.
And getting a
and
little
she'll
work
make
in.
me go, get up and go. We're going, Dad. And we train at night. So there's sometimes we're a little beat, but we go in.
Yeah. That's so important. And just showing up. What's that old saying about your life will be the same today as it is tomorrow, except the people you meet, the books you read, and the meetings you attend.
Exactly.
We're describing that.
Exactly. Agreed.
Good stuff.
Agreed.
So what's if to a young listener that's maybe starting out in weightlifting or bodybuilding, do you have any good takeaway, quick tips, things that are, especially this day and age, to maybe pay more attention to, maybe pay less attention to, as far as what's hype, what's not? What do you think on that?
Pay attention to basic movements.
Yeah.
None of, this internet's basic, for chest, bench press, incline, decline, some dumbbell work, and none of these fancy, crazy. I mean, I've gone to the gym and seen young kids training these crazy motions. I'm like, you guys need to stay off the internet.
Too many trends.
It's too many trends. I mean, it's just basic stuff. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's just about, if you want to grow, you need to eat and overload the muscle.
Yeah. And on that subject too, how about, there's a bazillion and one supplements on the market with regard to performance, and gym response with muscles, make them do this, make them do that, make the heart do this, make the oxygen do this. And we could spend all day long talking about those things.
Right.
For the younger crowd and or middle-aged crowd that's getting into this arena, and or even for their sports performance, what would you say are maybe your top 3, if you were to pick 3 supportive supplements, what would those be, and what would be the top 3 to avoid? Is just John's idea.
Top 3, creatine, definitely, because it has the same
The monohydrate form?
Yeah, I mean, any form, because it has, it forces water into the cells,
Yes.
which gives you the feeling of fullness,
Yes.
gives you strength, and it just really helps in your training and recovery.
Feel it in the pump for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Glutamine after training for
Post.
recovery, post-workout.
Smart, yeah.
Post-workout. And I'm kind of on the fence about like BCAAs and stuff like that. I was always more a proponent of just eating a balanced diet and getting most of your supplementation from that. But, we use protein powder, as, either whey protein or hydrolyzed isolate, which I like better because it's more digestible. It's easily digested.
I agree.
We use that for, for supplementation when we can't eat. We can't eat 6 meals a day. So we eat 3 and drink 3.
Mm-hmm.
And supplements like muscle egg. I don't know if you and I have spoke about it. It's liquid egg whites, which flavored, and you can, it's great protein and you can drink it.
Yeah, the albumin form.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that's the stuff that I really, if you said, what would you, if you've only had to pick 3 or 4?
I think that's good. Real good advice.
Those would be.
What about junk to stay away from that's trendy
So,
in your experience and options?
I don't think any of the fat burners that are on the market today really work. Way back when, they were making fat burners with Mawang, which is ephedrine, and aspirin. Ephedrine, aspirin, and caffeine. That was the thermogenic stack that everybody used. And that really worked, but everybody abused it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
That has to
happened.
be the problem with those things.
Everybody abused it because it worked so well. It was basically like speed.
Yeah.
So none of the fat burners, I believe, work today. I don't believe they have the same effect, unless, of course, they have ephedrine in them. But you can't
even find that anymore.
You can't find that, but you can't abuse it either.
Yeah.
You can't abuse it. I don't really know, about the new supplements. I mean, that's just the fat burner stuff. I don't, most of the other supplements, that everybody taking the multivitamins, collagen proteins, which are really good, I guess, for recovery and healing. I don't believe there's anything bad about them.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of stuff is hype, and I think
Just to eat well already.
Yeah, if you eat well, if you really eat well, I don't think you really need that much supplementation.
Yeah, that's good advice. I think very true.
I mean, one of the things I always hear in the gym, and I'm sure you hear as well, is, I can't gain any weight. And the bottom line is you just don't eat enough.
Mm-hmm. Or the right balance.
Yeah, or the right balance of nutrients.
Yeah.
You just don't eat enough calories in order to gain weight. You need to eat at least, if you're trying to gain weight and you're working out really hard, you need to eat 20 times your body weight in calories per day. It's usually, baseline that we usually start with is like 10 times your body weight in calories per day if you want to lose, try and get cut up, 15 times if you want to maintain, and 20 times if you want to gain. You use those as baselines, and obviously you adjust it as per the mirror and the scale. That's the stuff we eat.
Are you a proponent of, on the days you train hard, of adding an extra hour of sleep, if possible?
Sleep is the best.
Yeah.
So if you look back at the bodybuilders of the 90s, they were so much bigger and so much more ripped than the bodybuilders of today. And I believe it's because I've had this conversation with a couple of pros, from way back. I believe it's because all they did back then was eat, sleep, and train. Now everybody's on social media. Everybody's doing their posts. Everything's a video on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is. And these guys don't have the time to recover like they used to. So they're not as big as they were. I mean,
Interesting.
It's just, I believe that's it. But the big guys that you see now are usually from Kuwait. They train in Kuwait because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So that's the difference.
That's cool.
That's the difference.
Man, that's some great advice. That's some great advice.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, Frank. I look forward to, thank you for coming in to do the segment, and I look forward to the next time, hopefully when you're fully healed and you'll have your usual size back on you, which is impressive.
Hopefully.
I gotta say, it's impressive.
I'm looking for it. Gives me something to do.
Well, it gives me something to look forward to when I finally grow up. I have something to listen to. But yeah, maybe have you back on, and maybe you and Lisa and do multiple subject things.
Absolutely.
That'd be fun.
Absolutely. It's great. Thanks for having me.
Hey man, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right. All right, thanks.